obviously you had a huge passion in this. You went through a pretty large setback because, I mean, if I'm thinking I'm a young male and I'm, doing something seriously and I've got a label of professional, and then you basically get taken out of contention for things outside of your control, that's a little hit to the ego, a little punch to the gut, right?
Oh, for sure.
And so you stay into working into the gym, you stay into the networking side of it, obviously get your eye fixed, everything else.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that gym in Tucson?
It's still there, man. Shout outs to Boxing Inc. over there in Tucson, ran by Zach Aiken. It's still doing great. I still talk to these guys still to this day.
And so they're still in business. You were obviously involved in that.
Mm-hmm,
That's awesome. So you had a business that had a pretty solid base. Now you guys moved from Tucson to Northern California in Roseville.
Mm-hmm.
When did you guys do that?
2009.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So not only did you move to an entirely new place, you and your now wife, long distance relationship, and you're starting a business. Yep. Okay. Obviously now you have a wildly successful gym. You have employees, coaches, staff, all that type of stuff. Very popular here in Northern California. Looking back on it, now that you've been here, looking back on that 10 years ago, if you were going to do it differently from the start, what are some of the things you think you would have done differently? And what were some of the lessons that you had learned?
Dang, going over the paperwork, looking through contracts, how to sign people up, the sales aspect. Once again, shout out to Zach Aiken who showed me all that.
So he kind of gave you the playbook.
Oh, that's it.
That's a really great lesson.
Yeah.
If you have a passion, right, and you can get in and you can learn from somebody, I think you did it right. You have a good relationship with him. Right. You went to a different geographical area that wasn't going to compete. You took that model, right, and you applied it.
Yep.
And so that really was maybe some of the reasons why you've had so much success here, right? Because you had a model and a framework, and then you were just the guy running it.
Yep. Yeah.
So how'd you come up with some of the capital and everything to go ahead and get started? Because obviously at a boxing gym, you got to sign a lease, you got to get equipment, you got to do all that. So, what leap did you take to get that done?
Well, we had set up a little bit of capital beforehand, before starting it up.
Yeah.
The problem is we went really bare minimum at first. I think one of the biggest things that people make a big mistake about is starting really big and investing and taking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from the bank and getting the top of the line equipment and all this stuff. You know what I mean? I think the best thing is to start real slow. Crunch the numbers. Think about how many members you would need to cover your the costs and then the overhead. You know what I mean? And then you can take a little bit through. But yeah, I would really slow. Like, I mean really slow. Square footage, and then when it's busting at the seams, then open up.
Expand.
Yeah. Because I've seen some guys just go in there and big old warehouse, and they don't even have the
they got a lot of overhead.
Yeah, a lot of overhead. Yep, they're signed in and 2-3 year lease. But yeah, I would definitely. So when you say what things I would do different, I mean, there's certain little things I would do different. I mean, at the top of my head, I can't really think of a lot. But I mean, we were really frugal, went really small, and then work your way up.
And that's the thing that I've heard a lot about for people I know that have turned their passions into a business, which is, you can't have a lot of overhead at first. You can't just go all in with everything you have. You want to go all in with your commitment, but you don't want to go all in with your resources, right? Because you have to start to figure out what the niche is. And I'm sure different locations and different gyms have different niches. So did you ever find a niche that worked for you guys that you guys kind of own here?
Yeah, definitely. As a competitor, when I first started, a lot of times, and I'm happy to say this, we do have competitors. There are some guys in there that compete. I work with amateurs, I work with pros, right? But you can't forget about, you know what I mean, Susie the soccer mom, or Betty the stay-at-home mom, and people like that are really going to keep your business going and thriving. You know what I mean?
Themselves or like with their kids?
Both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That a lot of trainers are out there, and they're like, I wanna just have nothing but fighters, and this and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want nothing, you know, and then that is cool. You know, they'll come, you know, you'll have them, but there's a lot of just, like I said, the blue collar, white collar people, they're going to keep going.
That's how you and I met.
Yeah. Right.
You
right.
know,
Definitely.
same concept.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that you've gotten to this point where, you know, the gym's got a pretty good operation there, you know, you're working, you're growing, how have you sort of stayed passionate about your passion? Because I could see over 12 years, this could largely start to feel like it's, you know, another thing that you have to do. You know, how have you kept that fire and that energy with this?
Yeah.
You know, because I assume you got some flavor to make some money, right? But then you also got some flavor that probably keeps that flame going and that, you know, competitive edge sharp. So what's the difference in that for you?
You know, I think we talked about this. I think it might have been Gary Vee, that entrepreneur guy, right? And one thing he said, and when someone says something, things, they stick to me, right? And he said, you know, a lot of people say they love this business, they love, you know, what they do, they love their profession, right? But they're not really in love with it. You know, they're in lust with it. You know, so they like the money, they like whatever it is, right? But no, man, I really love boxing. I really do. What it's taught me, you know what I mean? What I've seen it, you know, teach, you know, other kids, other adults, you know, just the sport in general. You know, and there's other sports out there, right, that are great, you know, combat sport. I'm a big fan of jiu-jitsu. I'm a big fan of, I love the UFC. I love MMA. I love, you know what I mean? But just me, my walk was boxing, and, you know, what it did for me and what I see that it's done for other, you know, high-level athletes and how it's changed their lives. It's one of those things you kind of have to, you know,
respect a little bit.
Well, yeah, you know, you see guys like, you know, Mike Tyson, you know, where they're at today, you know, looking at his podcast and seeing him and reading their books. Man, it's just, it's a unbelievable, unique sport. You see what I'm saying? When you're going in there,
and so you can be involved in different ways. I mean, you're involved at your gym, you're involved with some of the pro fighters you're training. Yeah. Man, you're involved when you're ringside, right?
I have been. I'm not really I'm not really with a lot of professionals. There's some amateur guys in there, and to be, that's a whole other
right
topic.
Now, right?
Yeah, but you know, I'm not really even a big fan, to be honest with you. Like there's another thing. I know it sounds weird. There's things that I love about boxing, and there's things that I hate about boxing. You know, I think, you know what I mean.
I think every passion. Yeah, I think every passion has that.
Right.
So how have you gotten past the hate side of your passion and making sure that you take what you feel like is the bad thing about the sport and not incorporating that in your gym to make sure that the people who are the common folks, you know, they have a better experience with boxing and a better relationship with boxing?
Looking at it like from surface level, you know, the hype on these big time events, you know, these big fights that are coming up, you know, the Caleb Plant and the Benavidez next weekend, and the Gervonta, you know, the anticipation and stuff like that, and showing, you know, the people that you're teaching the sport on what to look for, you know, just like anything, if you're, you know.
So you get them involved and knowledgeable,
yeah,
you know, so they
like
can
that.
participate in viewership amongst other items.
Yeah.
What do you keep them shied away from?
The politics of it, you know, having to argue with promoters and managers, and you know what I mean. And if you have when you're, a boxer and you're trying, you know, you actually care for this guy, you know what I mean, and he's really just a whore getting pimped out by these promoters,
right. And you're not trying to, you know, send him in there for $1 to get beat.
Yeah, you care for him, and you have to. And these amateurs and these pros, like, you see what they got to go through. You were there at one point.
Yeah, you specifically been through it.
And you're like, you know, so man, you're there for them and you feel bad. And then you look at everyone else and you're like, you don't really know what it's like, you know, to have to not eat and be angry and be away from the kids and go to camp, and you know what I mean?
So you're more like, I think your niche, as you've explained it to me, is boxing as an outlet, not boxing as, you know, a profession and things.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of